By the time I finished Baten Kaitos Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean, I felt pretty comfortable with the battle system, and I was prepared to go into the next game with a chance to get even better at it. So what does Baten Kaitos Origins do? Throw most of the previous battle system out the window, of course. After I got adjusted to that major shift though, I can see the vision. Baten Kaitos Origins is a better game on the gameplay side of things. The combat is more active and flows better once you learn the system. There are also plenty of little improvements to how the game presents information or helps you move around. About the only area Baten Kaitos Origins doesn't improve on the original is with the story, and that's more a note of pride for the first game than a demerit for Origins. Baten Kaitos Origins isn't the easiest game to get into, especially after playing the first game, but the reward for putting in the time and effort is a good game through and through. Baten Kaitos Origins, or Baten Kaitos 2, is a card-based combat RPG developed by Monolith Soft and tri-Crescendo and published by Nintendo. Yeah, I didn't realize that the first Baten Kaitos game was published by Namco and the second by Nintendo. Wild. This was even prior to Nintendo acquiring Monolith Soft as a studio, although not too far in advance, so it was probably in the works at the same time. The game was released in Japan in February of 2006 and worldwide in September of 2006 only for the GameCube. There, the game languished with no further releases until this past year when it came to the Nintendo Switch along with the first game as a remastered package in September of 2023. The game came out to average review scores and ratings upon first release. While the improvements the game made to UI, UX, voice acting, and translation garnered praise, many reviewers cited the reworked battle system and increased difficulty as a failing point for the game. Although this point was not universal, as others praised the combat system, and I think you can find what camp I fall into after hearing my opening to the video. Sales figures are a little harder to find, but indications are that Baten Kaitos Origins did not perform particularly well, even in comparison to the first game. This sales disappointment may be the reason that there have been no games in the series since Origins, despite a DS game announcement and other rumors. The remaster similarly did not set the world on fire with sales, although hopefully positive word of mouth can help make up some ground. Certainly I will do my part, because I think the Baten Kaitos games are well worth taking a chance on for those interested. I do recommend for those interested in the games though, to play Baten Kaitos Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean first, and then come back to Origins. In Baten Kaitos, you play as a spirit you name that pairs with the main character for the story and combat. The land is split into different floating islands, each with their own culture and leaders formed after being raised to the sky after the War of the Gods. In this game, your spirit is connected to a young man named Sagi, a member of the elite shadow organization, the Dark Service, which does behind-the-scenes work for the Alphard Empire on behalf of Lord Baelheit. The first assignment Sagi is given during the game, though, is to assassinate the current emperor. When Sagi and his companion, a mechanized life form named Guilo, arrive in the Emperor's chambers, however, the Emperor is already dead. Sagi is subsequently framed for the murder and needs to flee from people and a strange monstrous creature that appears during the incident as well. Sagi and Guilo join up with a sheltered young woman named Millie, and they are recruited to work against the plans of Lord Baelheit on the islands outside of the Empire. Baten Kaitos Origins' story strengths come mainly from two areas, in my opinion. The first is the emphasis on a smaller, more focused cast, allowing each one to stand out and have proper arcs and mysteries around them. Sagi, Guilo, and Millie all have their chance to shine throughout the story, and it is easy to care about the trio, although Guilo's continued use of a particular insult for Millie got grating. The second part is how the game builds on the work done in the first game. The first game had several cool ideas with world building that weren't explored all that much beyond the visuals. The Wings of Heart, for example, which play more of a role in Baten Kaitos Origins as a big part of the contrast with the Empire's push for mechanization, nature versus machines and all that. The threads Origins weaves with the original are also great to see, but thankfully the game is not overly reliant on those for its narrative. That's always a risk with prequels, and I'm glad to see that Origins managed to avoid it. That doesn't mean there aren't fascinating developments that recontextualize certain aspects of the first game, but Origins knows how to place those in its narrative. Nothing is going to beat a certain revelation in Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean, but Origins has its share of plot twists and revelations that keep you hooked through the entire story. Another solid story that stands well on its own and is enhanced with prior knowledge of the series. Like the first game, Baten Kaitos Origins has your 3 party members up against a group of enemies that you can attack using the cards called Magnuses from your hand. That's pretty much where the similarities end though, as Origins revamped a lot of the combat to the point it was somewhat jarring to play it at first. Instead of individual decks for each party member, you now have one deck shared for the entire party. This would have been a severe hassle in the first game, but Origins also now allows you to discard cards from the hand quickly in order to keep battle moving. Turns are also now taken in a more active turn-based combat method, with each character having a cooldown meter after their turn is performed. All of this means you have to think on your feet and take calculated risks, one of the reasons I prefer this system to the first games. Then we have the cards themselves. These have been simplified into general categories: weak attack, medium attack, and strong attack cards. You can play only one of each kind of attack, and they build up strength and MP if you can play them in order. By playing them, you build up your MP to a maximum of 5 and can use that MP to perform more powerful abilities. Mainly, those will be the finishers, but there are also some defensive or healing items that require MP to use. There is also a risky play you can take when at maximum MP, where you can burst and every attack and finisher can be used for free as long as the combo is going. But once it's done, you won't be able to use anything that costs MP for a few turns. Very good for finishing off enemies, but if they happen to survive, you could be in serious trouble. By chaining together attacks and finishers, you can do significant damage to enemies. Then on top of that, you can sometimes transition into a relay combo where the character's turns are chained together. There's more planning and foresight necessary to pull off these impressive attacks along with a little luck, but when everything comes together, there is nothing that can stand in your way. Elements do return from the first game, but instead of the attacks themselves having elemental aspects, you can equip weapons or armor during combat that possesses those capabilities. The finishers retain their elemental focus though. I will admit, I hardly ever use the armor of any kind during my playthrough, but that's available if you want to give it a try. The elements in Baten Kaitos Origins are fire, water, earth, lightning, dark, and light. Enemies and allies have strengths or weaknesses to the various elements, although unfortunately it's not easily discernible during battle. One of the reasons to consider elements in battle though, is that a lot of the time the special EX combos come from elements that are either the same or opposing. These special combos will be invaluable when taking on the hardest enemies, especially in the later parts of the game. In comparison to the first game, Baten Kaitos Origins is harder. The enemies hit hard and have a lot of health, and some really tough fights may require luck to survive long enough in to win. I do wish the difficulty was tuned down a little bit, especially with the adjustments to the battle system, but I will also say that the feeling of taking down the toughest enemies was immensely satisfying. It is a tough system, and not fair all the time, but it's close enough to limit frustration. The combat of Baten Kaitos Origins is great once you take the time to learn it, and I know that's not going to be easy. I died to the first tough boss more times than I would care to admit, but once things clicked, it was a whole lot of fun. A couple more notable differences between this game and the first comes with progression. This time you have standard level ups, no special church to go to in order to level up the characters, but the church is still there for classing up your crew. You class up to gain more decks to use, more cards to use in each deck, and more cards you can discard at one time. In addition to this change, the game also heals you up after each battle, so you could have been at death's door for the first fight, win, and then be all good for the next group of enemies just down the road. Those who have played the first game know how big of changes these are, and I think they're overall positive as it reduces the amount of extraneous things you have to worry or plan around. Now, like the first game, you also carry around a series of blank Magnuses that are used mainly to solve puzzles or side quests. When encountering objects around the world, you can infuse them into the blank Magnuses. Everything from mountain apples to the skulls of your enemies. Okay, just one skull can be in your party. This time though, while you start off with 8 blank Magnuses, you gain more as the game goes on. The big reason for this is that you will also be collecting recipes called Magnus mixes. You put 2 or more Magnuses into the mixer and get an entirely new Magnus out. On top of that, you can now upgrade certain regular combat Magnuses with the infused Magnuses you collect. There's just more you can do with this mechanic, which is nice to see, as it did feel underutilized in the first game, and still feels underutilized here, just not as much. For major side content, you have the side quests, which are thankfully now trackable via a screen in the menu. That feature alone makes the side content infinitely better. The other two major side content areas, though, are the Colosseum and Sedna. In the Colosseum, you take on a series of enemies one after the other to gain points to rank up. Your goal is to become champion of the Colosseum, but there are forces even beyond the enemies you face working against you. This is a good place to get some experience as well. Good luck! Sedna, on the other hand, is a town, probably made out of clay based on the look, that you are trying to reassemble. The pieces to do so are found in many places, sometimes rewarded from side quests, sometimes from defeating enemies, and sometimes just lying around. Collect enough of them and you will be rewarded by the one resident at first, trying to help you put things back together. I liked Sedna, which is why I was furious when I found that the guides I was using to find all the pieces lied to me about a crucial part of getting one of the pieces. How dare these over-decade-old guides lie to me! As for presentation, the game's art is nice. I could probably just write exactly what I wrote for Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean, as the games look very similar. Lots of colors used to distinguish between locations, some new locations shown to show off the game's art in new ways, and memorable character designs. The opening movie did decline significantly in quality of art and animation though. That was clearly a big budget cut from game to game. The music is pretty nice to listen to. Like with the first game, I'd say the battle themes are the most enjoyable parts of the soundtrack. Plenty of the music is reused though, so if you enjoyed the music in the first game, there's no reason you wouldn't for Origins. The UI and UX in general have great improvements. I already talked about the tracking of side quests in the menus, but there's even more useful information given to the players in the menus now. I'm told it was even better in the original release versus the remaster, as the remaster removed the weaknesses from the field guide for enemies. Still lots of things to look for that will be helpful for story and gameplay enthusiasts. The one thing that didn't improve in this area though is some tutorials, specifically with regards to changing targets for healing or attacks. It's a crucial part of gameplay and it was not well explained, at least in the remaster. You can now fly though while going around the map. Look at that speed. I love this new inclusion, just as part of the world building in addition to speeding up travel. The remaster again added an instant kill, no encounters, and various speed ups to map and battle speed. I love the options, especially the no encounters one, but the game is perfectly playable without those on. It's just a nice bonus. Now the first game was infamous for its atrocious English dub, but I gave the Origins dub a listen and it's decent, so it's a shame that it was pulled from the remaster as well. There's not too much that makes Origins stand out compared to the first game, but it's also very similar in level of quality on all fronts. The distinctive art style, characters, music, and more give Baten Kaitos a unique presentation that I'd love to see more of in the future. Baten Kaitos Origins is a game that's unafraid to experiment off of the already experimental parts of Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean. Most of those changes are very positive, and if you are a fan of the first game, I think you'll enjoy this one. Just be prepared for some adjustment to the systems you're used to as you sink back into this land of cards and clouds. The Baten Kaitos games are a solid duo, and I would certainly be interested in a third game if Monolith Soft ever decided to give it another go. I'm glad more people like myself have gotten a chance to play the games, and I encourage those interested to give it a shot as well. Thank you for watching. My channel is sustained and held afloat by the dark power of the YouTube algorithm, and it is only satisfied by engagement. So please, if you can spare the effort, likes, comments, and shares will temporarily satiate the beast. Subscribe if you have not already, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Have a great day, and happy gaming.